2, you look for a GCF in factoring, and you say, self, do I see one here for this first problem? And survey says no. Okay, so there is no GCF. It is 3 terms, and so you are going to use Xbox to solve. So I set up my X. I remember that A times C value goes at the top and B goes at the bottom. What is my A times C value here, class? Negative 24. You're lucky I have terrific hearing. And my B value? 5. So I'm looking for 2 factors that multiply to give me negative 24 and add to give me a positive 5. So the larger digit is going to be positive because my B is positive. What are those 2 factors? 8 and negative 3. 8 times negative 3 is negative 24, and 8 plus negative 3 is 5. Those are correct. So then we go to the box part of the Xbox. What goes in the upper right-hand corner? X squared. What goes in the bottom right corner? Negative 24. And the middle muddle are the 2 things that you just found multiplied with X. So 8X and negative 3X. Now, if you put them in reverse order, you'll get the same final answer, but there'll be one at the top and one on the side and different from mine. So here, what do I need to do? This is maybe the hardest part. Maybe not. Need to find another greatest common factor of each row and each column. So X squared and negative 3X is going to be X. 8X and negative 24 is going to be 8, a positive 8 because this is positive. And going up the column, X squared and 8X is X. And negative 3X and negative 24 is going to be negative 3. Negative because this one is negative. So my final answer, I don't need to rewrite it. Yes, you should. Don't be lazy. X plus 8 times quantity X minus 3. How many had that for an answer? Not many. Come on, raise your hands. Did you get it for an answer? I can't tell. 3, 4 people. Always can do more with factoring. All right, let's go to the second one. 3 terms. But before I even notice it's 3 terms, do I have a greatest common factor for each of those terms? No. So then we go to Xbox. 3 times 2 is my A times C value, which is 6. B value of 7. So I need 2 factors of 6 that add to give you 7. Oh my gosh, it's got to be more than the product itself. There's only one way that's going to work. 6 and 1, yes. So then you go to the box and you say X squared, no, 3X squared, sorry. Good morning. Just set on the desk, thank you. And my last term 2 goes in the last box. The middle muddle is 6 and 1 multiplied by X for each. And then I need to find my greatest common factor. Come on, Justice. So 3X squared and 1X is going to be an X. 6X and 2, what's the greatest common factor there? 2, positive 2. 3X squared and 6X is going to be 3X, and 1X and 2 is 1. So rewriting that, 3X plus 1 times X plus 2. Anybody have that for the second one? Okay, 4. 4's terrible, but hey, we're still working on it. We just haven't learned it yet. Any questions on this? Okay, terrible is maybe a strong word. We just haven't learned it yet. Okay, put that to the side. Let's go to our notes. Back to page Let's see, what page was that? The page, there's no page numbers on here, are there? The page with the table, like page 2.
Pardon this interruption. It's time for the morning beta testers to head to their classroom. Thank you.
All right, good luck with that. No new homework. The homework I gave yesterday should be due tomorrow, but since you won't be here, we're going to do a lot of factoring. We're going to move on if we get all through the time. All right, so we have an error here, a small mathematical error. So we were doing the right things, but when we had the mathematical error and I ended up with 2 zeros, I was like, uh-oh, am I doing something wrong? So for negative 2.5, it was quantity negative 2.5 squared, which is 6.25, plus 5 times negative 2.5, I'm looking down here right now, which was negative 12.5, and then plus 6. When you add these all together, you do not get 0. So erase that 0 for the y-coordinate of the vertex. And Daniel, what we really should have gotten was what? Yes, negative 0.25. Negative 0.2, oh geez, I didn't even write it right. 0.25. Okay, that is your vertex. Whatever is in the middle of your Fab 5 numbers that you use, that is the vertex. So negative 2.5, I know the vertex was on this axis of symmetry, this dotted dashed black line. And then negative 0.25 would be just below the x-axis. It's not negative 1. Negative 0.5 would be halfway. It's just right below. Okay. So then we tried doing it with negative 3 up here. And we set negative 3 in for our x value and got negative 3 squared plus 5 times negative 3 plus 6. 9 minus 15 is negative 6, and then plus 6 gives me 0. That's for negative 3. So this should be a 0. If this is a parabola, what should the y-coordinate of negative 2 be? What should this be right here in this box? That should also be a 0 because it's a parabola. Very nice. So then I need to do only one more of these two. I'm going to do negative 1. That seems like it would be easier. So here's my original equation. It's kind of hard to see here. X squared plus 5x plus 6. I'm going to substitute negative 1 in for my x squared. So the function of negative 1 being substituted in is negative 1 squared plus 5 times negative 1 plus 6. Miss Didi, should I write this down? Yes, you should. So you know where we're getting these answers. I'm not just pulling them from the air, the atmosphere. So negative 1 squared is how much? 1 plus 5 times negative 1 is negative 5 or minus 5 plus 6. Bless you. Got a new box of tissues over there if you need. 1 minus 5 is negative 4, and negative 4 plus 6 is 2. So when x is negative 1, my y-coordinate is 2, which means when I have negative 4 as my x-coordinate, it also should be 2 because we're talking about parabolas. All right. Now let's plot our scheme. No, let's plot our graph. Really? Nothing? Okay. All right, so let's go. We did the vertex already. It's right here. Let's go to -2, 0. That means it is right on the x-axis. And -1, 2 is putting it right there. And if I do these two here, -3, 0 is right here on the x-axis, and -4, 2 is right there. Connect with a gentle curve. We didn't have to find the parent graph, or is this the parent graph? Is this the original f of x, or is this the g of x? Really, it's the g of x. It's not the parent graph because it's been moved, okay? So this is my new and improved graph. So as I look, the directions here are below the table say the x-intercepts are blank and blank. X-intercepts have to be on the x-axis where y is equal to 0. You can also circle them carefully. So what are my x-intercepts here? Say it again. Yes, -2 and -3 are the x-intercepts. So what do you think the solutions are? -2 and -3. So when you visually see that the parabola crosses the x-axis, that is your solution, or those are your solution, because you can have 0 solutions, 1 solution, or 2 solutions. Any questions about that table? So we were not totally off, but it did rattle me a bit, just to be honest. All right, so we did the bottom. We talked about a double root and how that is when your parabola just touches the line and bounces back off. It's one solution, but you have 2 factors. Somebody's knocking at the door. I believe we also talked about example 3. So here is a parabola. It doesn't even cross the x-axis. So we have no real number solutions. Sometimes we call that the null set. You can write it like this. Here's the name, null set. Or we just say no real solutions. Okay? No real solutions. Good morning. Any questions about anything up to factoring review? Okay. All right, let's start going through this factoring review. This is a review from what you did at the end of last semester and the beginning of this semester. Types of factoring. So number 1, if we have any amount of terms, what should I look for and do first? Look for a GCF, greatest common factor. These are the steps. You all right, Tay? Okay. If we have only 2 terms and we've already looked for the greatest common factor, what should I look for here if I only have 2 terms? Maybe I should put GCF first. So GCF first, and then what? Anyone? It's a difference of 2 squares. Very good. Difference of 2 perfect squares. Or difference of 2 squares. All right, so number 3, if you have 3 terms, you always look for the greatest common factor first, and then we do what kind of factoring? X box, yes. And the last one, if we have 4 terms, we always look for the greatest common factor first, and then we do factor by grouping, yes. All right, so this is a blast from the past. We will need to be using this here in the near future, so that's why we are going over it again. We're just going to go through as many problems as we can here, and I'd like to give you some time to work on your homework too. So the directions say, and it's always important to read the directions first. Factor the following polynomials. Remember to look for a GCF, okay? All right, so 6x squared minus 9x. Do I have a greatest common factor? Yes, and what would it be? 3x. So you can either show it to me here, or if you are past that point, you can bring it out front and say 6 divided by 3 is 2. X squared divided by x is x. Minus 9 divided by 3 is 3. And x divided by x, 1. 3 times 1 is 3. So here is your final answer. So that one just had a greatest common factor. Any questions about that? Okay, let's go to number 2. 14xy to the 6th plus 21x to the 5th, y to the 3rd. What do I do first here? GCF. Garlic cheese fries. Yes, no, not garlic cheese fries. What is my greatest common factor here? How about for just 14 and 21? 7. Okay, what about these x's? How many x's can I factor out of both, Fiery? 1, she says. Good answer, good answer. How many y's can I factor out of both? 3. It's always the smallest amount when it comes to the variables, because it's not common if you can't include them all. So that is my GCF, but I need to factor it. So 7x, y to the 3rd. 14 divided by 7 is 2. X divided by x is 1. So 2 times 1 is 2. Y to the 6th divided by y to the 3rd. Y to the 3rd. Yes, you subtract those exponents. Plus 21 divided by 7 is 3. X to the 5th divided by x. X to the 4th. And y to the 3rd divided by y to the 3rd. Simplifies out to be 1 times 1 is just that. All right, now take a look at this. Is there anything that we can factor out of that? No. So that is your, final answer. Questions there? All right, let's go to the next page. We got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Ooh, those bottom 3, those are all trinomials. All right, x squared minus 16. What should I do first? Sabran. And do I have one? No, I do not. So this has that 2 terms. What is this called again, Anthony? You told us before. Difference of 2 squares. So I need to rewrite these as 2 squares, which is x squared minus 4 squared. Okay? And when you have the difference of 2 squares, you might not remember. If you have a squared minus b squared, that is equal to a plus b times a minus b. So here, my x is my a value. So I'm going to say x plus 4. 4 is my b value. I should use a different color. X plus 4. times x minus 4. This is my favorite kind of factoring because I'm like, man, that's fast. Yes. Say it again. Where did I get the 4 from? Because I need to find some number squared that gives me 16. And since 16 is a perfect square, meaning I could do a square with 4 on each side, that would be 4 on each side. So 4 times 4 gives me that 16, which makes up the b squared. Okay? Good question. Any questions, any more questions about 3? All right, Joelle, come on. Joelle, come on. I know I'm interrupting, but here we go. Number 4, talk to me about 4. That is a nice problem. Yes, yes it is. Talk to me about 4, come on. Sydney, talk to me about it. What do you notice? What do you observe? Perfect squares. Yes, they are perfect squares. So should I jump right in and do difference of 2 squares? Good. What should I do? Look for a GCF because it will make a difference. So do I have a GCF here? Yeah, what is it? 4. Yeah, I can divide both of these by 4. So 4 is my greatest common factor. That factor comes out front. 4 divided by 4 is 1. And x squared is all by itself. Minus 36 divided by 4 is 9. Wow, that is a totally different difference of squares now, isn't it? So yes, now we look at this and say, yeah, that's a difference of squares. So 4, we're just going to keep bringing out front. This x squared is already squared minus what squared gives me 9? 3. Excellent. Oop, 3 squared. Write it down first. So my answer here is going to be 4 times quantity. Now these are both squared. So it's going to be x plus 3 times x minus 3. And this is your final answer. Do you see why I love difference of 2 squares? It's quick, right? I think it's quick. Any questions on 4? What do you need help with on 4? Okay. Let's move on. Let me take a look at these. All right, we'll do 5. Let's do 5. So first of all, we say, do I have a GCF? And you look at it and you're like, well, my coefficient's 1 and they don't all have x's, so that's a big no right away. Okay, let's do x box, a times c at the top. So 1 times negative 24 is negative 24. At the bottom is your negative 5, which is your b value, which means my larger digited number is going to be negative. So I need factors of negative 24 that add up to a negative 5. Negative 8 and 3. Okay. All right, so let's go with the box. Justice, what goes in the upper left-hand corner?
4.
No, not 4. It's going to be your first term, your ax squared. So that's going to be just x squared right here. Okay. What about in the bottom box? I'm coming back to you.
X minus 3.
No.
Negative 5.
No. It's going to be negative 24. Okay. Negative 24. You might want to write down some of this, a few of it. Okay? All right, and the middle muddle is going to be these two that we found multiplied by x. So negative 8x and positive 3x. Greatest common factor time. So x squared and 3x. What is my greatest common factor? Toby? Right here. Greatest common factor of those two. X. Greatest common factor of these. Thomas? Negative 8. Excellent. How about in the columns? X squared and negative 8x. How about Morgan? Brooks. Morgan, right? How about here? X squared and negative 8x. What is that going to be? X, yes. And how about 3x and negative 24? Miss Trinity. What is the greatest common factor of 3x and negative 24? 3, yes. Positive 3. So rewrite them. X minus 8 times x plus 3. That is your factorization there. Miss Thede, can I have x plus 3 times x minus 8? Is that the same thing? Well, is it? Is it? Yeah. 5 times 4 is the same as 4 times 5. All right. I say we do one more of these 3. Which one would you like to do? No, let's not do 6. Okay, which one between 7 and 8? Shoot, I think I should have picked 7, but okay. 8, we'll do 8. I asked, didn't I? All right, so number 8, what do I look for first when factoring? GCF. GCF. When in doubt, just say GCF, right? No, not always. Do I have a greatest common factor here? 9, 16, and negative 4. I know, right? An extra little step. Look at you. Thinking like a teacher. Don't worry, I won't tell anybody. Do I have a GCF in 8? No, I don't. All right, so we need to do the X box. A times C is 9 times your negative 4, negative 36. B is 16. Whoa. Nelly, what do we got here? So factors that multiply to give you negative 6 and add to give you 16. 136, 2, and 18. Whoop, whoop, whoop. There it is. Whoop, there it is. And so 2 and 18, but one of them's got to be negative. Negative 2, because the 16 is positive, your larger digited number would be positive. You guys know that song? Whoop, there it is. Whoop, there it is. Do you know that one? Yeah, okay, good. All right, so here is my original trinomial. What goes in that first box? Joelle, this first box in the upper left-hand corner. Wearing the green trunks. I don't think that's correct. No. 9x squared. The first term goes in the first corner. 9x squared. All right, Justice, coming back to you. What comes in this bottom last square?
64.
No. Too high. It is the last amount, the last term, negative 4. There you go. And the two middle muddles are negative 2 and 18 multiplied with the x. Okay? Then I've got to find greatest common factor between 9x squared and 18x. Tay, what do you think? 9x. There you go. How about negative 2x and negative 4? TJ. Say it again. Not an x. This one doesn't have an x.
Negative 2.
-2. Yes, I like how you added that negative there, right? Angel. 9x squared and -2x? Two? Does 2 divide into 9? Not evenly. So it's just going to be x. Nothing between 9 and -2 except for 1. And the last one, 18x and -4. 2. Yes, plus 2. So my final answer should be 9x minus 2 times the factor x plus 2. Bada boom, bada bing. Questions about that problem? Okay. Great work today, guys. Great work. You may remember I gave you a homework paper. Those of you that were absent yesterday, I'll give you one. So this is homework 12.3, and it is due tomorrow. Okay? Try to get it done and to me tomorrow. All right? Use this time. Dan was like, eh. All right, I need to get one to Joelle and Thomas. Great job, guys.